I don't understand what fun people get out of doing that. Ken, there we go. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, it was crazy. Um, so anyway, I'll have to check some settings and I would love to. I've got a couple buddies that grew up in Lexington. I've been to Keeneland to the racetrack there, and he would tell me his parents had a houseboat there when he was younger, and he would tell me some of the stories about just the multi-million-dollar houseboats that were on the lake and at the marina that they were in, and he said it was awesome. He loved it there, but that is one place that um, I use subscriber chat only on YouTube, so that stuff usually doesn't happen. Yeah, I'll have to check it out and see what settings I need to adjust. So, if you had asked a question, none of the questions carried over. So if anybody had a question or anything, we were talking about the bilge pump in the center tune, and the other than that, you don't have a bilge pump on a pontoon. Um, but when you put that ski locker in, you've got to get the water out somehow. Yeah, it's interesting, Jason. The center consoles are starting to pop up in a lot of freshwater lakes. They are, they're stealing market share again, just like the pontoons did, but they're stealing market share from the stern drive bow riders, because you can fish them real well. They're a fun boat to run. You've got the walk around. They look sharp, and I see that really hurting the bow rider segment. There's always going to be a place for a bow rider on a freshwater lake. I think a Cobalt, a Sea Ray, a Chaparral, but the Tritunes stole a bunch of that market share, and now the center consoles are stealing even more. Um, Jason, I'm wondering if you listen to this podcast, Lake Life with Molly and Chad. Um, Lake Life with Molly and Chad. They've got a place, I think, on Island, but they joined me on an interview, I want to say last year, but just a super nice couple. They kind of had the same thought that I did. Is hey, let's get some. Oh, I see. I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on. Let me get this share going. Um, they do a podcast. They just dropped their first one for Memorial Day, but just she's been a lifelong boater. He married into the boating family and it has taken to it. And so they just share tips. They're mainly lake boater tips, and they've got some older kids. I think their oldest is like early 20s maybe. And they invite their friends that have kids on, and just they're a really fun couple. And but they're at a Cumberland. They've got a Tritune and they've got a Heyday. So they've got two boats, one to surf on and one to just hang out on and spend the day. So um, yeah, the center consoles are popping up everywhere. I've got water that's finding its way into my carpeted center deck storage on my Creval Fish and Ski. The engine area will be dry. It could be a number of things. So on that boat, um, what happens is there's probably drainage that runs down and it's going to end up in that ski locker. So if you've got even just people that are wet, they are wet and they go up to the bow, they sit on the seats, that water is likely to find its way the into the ski locker. The other thing that can happen is it can all right. Oh, there we go. Sean, I thought I saw this big long thing pop up and I was like, oh, here we go with another one. But I'm going to show that here in just a little bit, Sean. Um, but it also could be depending on if there's a plug, you might find. Okay. All right. You might find that there's a plug you can put in and it's backflowing from somewhere else. I don't know exactly how that boat's set up, but it could be coming in from another spot. Like, and what I mean by that, depending on where that drains out, if it drains directly to the bilge area. But if it drains out the boat, which that probably isn't likely, but my gut would tell me it's coming from up in the bow and flowing down into that locker. I don't know if I could find a good picture to explain what I'm trying to say better. Um, Outrider image. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find a picture that shows what I want to show and describe it in a better way, but that would be my guess is there's old water in there. Maybe it rained and it's collecting the way it sits on the trailer and it doesn't roll back, or it's, somebody gets in the boat wet and then when you get up on plane, it flows down and it flows into that ski locker. And there's probably a plug or a drain that should drain that down into the bilge. If it's not draining down into the bilge, what you want to do is get a coat hanger or something, and there's probably just leaves or gunk that's in there, and that you can clean that out, kind of bore it out, and push that plug through, and that water should flow into the bilge compartment. Or pull, if there's an actual plug, pull the plug and let that water flow out. But a lot of what can happen on a boat is water can collect in an area where you just can't see it. And then when it raises, when you get up on plane and the bow comes up, or if you're on a trailer and you go up a hill, or you just crank the trailer up real high, water can flow out that you didn't even know was there. And now you're like, oh, it was totally dry, but now it's wet. I bet it's one of those two things happening. Let's see. Huge here. Yes, they got new ones out yet. Let's see. I'm not sure, Jason. I'm not sure. Yes, they got new ones out yet. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure what that's in regards to. So help me out there. I'm all discombobulated. I'm waiting for like more craziness to happen in the comments. All right, we got Ken back. Good. Okay, so this is the issue on Lake Norris. Lake Norris is just outside Knoxville, Tennessee. One of the prettiest lakes that you can be on. The water is just beautiful. I haven't been on it yet, but this is untouched pictures. So this is that wildlife officers are investigating fatal boating accident in Lake Norris involving personal watercraft collided with another boat. Incident occurred near Black Fox Access around 5:20. Made that a person died at the scene. EMS transporting the victim's body. Um, Identities being withheld. Um, all right, so yeah, so that is no good. Um, that is no good. And like I said, when you're around jet skiers, just be extra vigilant. I talk about it in the Best Boat Captain program, but I can't talk about that one enough. Is just avoiding, being aware, and if you have jet skis or people that have jet skis, let them know that just because somebody can drive it doesn't mean they should be driving it. Like like I said about earlier on the first part of this before we had craziness take off, my 11-year-old can get out and run a jet ski. Like, I am confident she's been around boats enough that she could get out there and have a great time. But I promise you, my 11-year-old will not be on a jet ski for a long, long time. Even though both of my girls are very well versed in boating and can tie boats up, and they know how to look out and watch, and they drive on my lap, and I let them do the 360 mental map while I'm right there, because I think that's a great way to teach them when it's appropriate conditions and traffic levels. Um, is That's a great way for them to get the sense, but it also gives me a chance to talk about, hey, when you turn, you can't just turn. Same thing goes for a boat. It's just so much easier to do on a jet ski. Um, Hope all is well. Catching a bit of this. Yeah. Herb, this is round two of the live, because the first one we had all sorts of stuff going on. Um, let's see here. Um, have to check it out. Ran the bilge pump today. Water was pumped out for about 20 seconds. No issue, but it was the other thing, Ken, that it could be, now, if it's getting in the ski locker, it's probably not this. But if you have water coming in from an unknown location, this is going to be more in the bilge compartment. One thing to check is rub your fingers up along the rub rail. And on some boats, they don't they put boats together like a shoebox. Okay, so you got the hull and you got the deck, and the deck goes over like a shoebox fitting. It kind of comes up like this, or a reverse shoebox in some situations, but they screw it together and then they put the rub rail on to finish it off. Well, what can happen is if there's a gap, they'll caulk it, right? They'll put some silicone or some caulk in there so that water doesn't come up in. Well, over time, that caulk can dry out, it can fail, it needs to be replaced. So if you just run your fingers up along that rub rail, sometimes you can find a gap. And what happens, depending on the height of the boat, when you take off, is that rush of water comes running up the gunnels. And sometimes that can shoot into that crack and get inside the hole, but it's usually going to end up down in the bilge compartment, because it's usually on the back side of the boat. But that would be another thing that I would double check. All right, let's see here. My boat's the 23 with the 300. Jason, I am missing completely. I think there's a part of the conversation that I missed with you. Um, okay, okay. Jason, I'm with you now. Um, I'll have to take a look at that. Their new episode. I think what he was saying, what Jason's saying, is that his boat is in the Mike and Molly, the podcast episode. Um, all right, I'll have to check that out, because I haven't listened to the new one. I've got it downloaded on my phone. Um, why is we can't get helpful, constructive criticism on boats have already failed on? People are still selling them. Um, we can't get helpful, constructive criticism on boats of already failed on. People are still selling them. Mike, I'm not sure I understand that comment. Retype that, and I'll see if I can add anything to it, or share it. Just wondering, have you thought of making commentary videos for? Yes, Eli, I did one of them. Let's see here. I did a kind of a boat fail compilation commentary. Um, One is, I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's a reaction to the boat fails. Um, Close player. It got 3,000 views from a year ago, and it's the first one I did, but I tried to make some. Here's what they did wrong. Um, I don't. I don't own the videos, and so I don't know what the copyright law or the it's more etiquette to me because they spent the time and the money to create these videos, and I don't know that I feel good about using that content, using a lot of that content. I did it because I'm like there might be something here, and then after I did it, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep doing them. But what I should do is maybe talk to one of them and partner up with them and say, "Hey, let's do a commentary on it, or film my own, or buy some of the footage so that that I can do it in very specific situations." That might Eli, that might be a good way to do it. But this is the one that I did do. So I just walked through different videos. This is probably the scariest one. Or no, this isn't the yeah, that's not going to play. Um, so, all right, here we go. Yeah, that could be worth checking out. Um, so the 2150, I did a review. Um, let's see, Calhef 24. I did a review on a Tahoe 1950 on the channel. Let's see if this pops up here. Yeah, a 2020 1950 Tahoe deck boat. So you can, I'm actually out on the boat. It's one that I actually, you know, I got too much stuff open right now that it's not going to play. But I went out on a 19 foot deck boat to record some of the outboard version of the Best Boat Captain. And so I figured while I was on it, I would do a review. It was a used boat. It was 2 years old. I did this in 2022. I think I did this last summer. Um, so the boat was 2 years old, and there were some things that were the quality level was showing already. The lower quality level was showing. The steering wheel specifically, the hatches on one of the compartments wasn't closing properly, and that's just because, hey, the boat's got more flex in it, and a boat that's not as solid, that doesn't have a stick of fiberglass, is going to flex more, which means that over time the hinges are going to shift a little bit. The latches aren't going to match up, and things can pop open or need to be adjusted, which is exactly what happened on this boat. But overall, the boat ran fine. You know, the boat was a fun boat to run. It handled waves better than I expected it to. You know, you heard some rattles, and like I talked about earlier, feeling the boat under your feet when we were talking about that Parker 920 Max, Adventure Max, is yeah, it's not as solid as when I run Chaparral, or when I run my in-laws Cobalt, or Sea Ray, which I sold and ran hundreds of those. It's not nearly as solid, but it is a good safe boat that can be a lot of fun. It's really open. It's got a lot of space. If you look at the upholstery on the seats, the thickness of the upholstery is, it's thinner than some of the more expensive boats. The cushions on the seats are, probably an inch thinner than, some of the more premium level, inch and a half thinner. Does that mean that it's not a good boat? No, it means that the seats aren't quite as comfortable. It means that you're probably gonna have to pay extra attention to maintenance to keep the boat in good condition for a long period of time. It means that some little ticky-tacky things are gonna break and gonna not work the way that they're intended to work over time. But on the other hand, you're gonna save, compare that to a 19 foot, let's say a who makes a 19-foot? There's not many deck boats in that size range now anyway. But let's say like a Regal, a Regal bow rider, or um, Sea Ray or a Chaparral or something like that. You're going to save $20,000 to $40,000 by going with the Bayliner, or I'm sorry, which going with the Tahoe. And guess what? You're going to have just as much fun on it if you're okay with those little things popping up. If you're okay with the seats not being as thick, if you're okay with some of the material being a little bit cheaper, some of the hardware being cheaper. If you're in salt, it's going to rust a lot faster, but it's got a Mercury motor on it, just like any other premium level is going to have a Mercury or a Yamaha on an outboard. So that part of the boat isn't going to be substantially different. It's just the solidness of it and the level of quality and some of the details and some of the let's see, here we go. So if you look, it's basic looking. You know, you don't have a lot of cutouts. You don't have wraparound seating. That's because it's cheaper to build the boats with, you know, little bit of rounded corners, but the mold is not intricate, cheaper to build. The upholstery is flat panels, cheaper to construct. The thickness of the material, not as thick, not as heavy duty. You know, the stainless steel is not 3/16 stainless. It's probably 306. It's cheaper. The canvas, you know, the bimini top, the poles are not as thick, not as durable. Did it fall apart? No. Did it flutter a little bit more than a more expensive brand? Absolutely. Did it matter? Not to me. I was having a great time out there. So those are the types of things that you give up for the savings of the money. So I in my mind, I have not come across a boat that I would say this is a terrible boat, don't buy it. Because they're just, one, the power plant's a Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, or Honda, maybe a Tohatsu. I don't know any manufacturers that are putting Tohatsus on, but on the used side, maybe, or a Mercruiser or a Volvo. All those engines are solid. There's not any one of them that you need to stay away from. So then it comes down to the aesthetics and the quality. But all the boats that I've seen are safe. They're, you know, out the switch flipping over, I think, is more of a user error issue. I don't think the boat's unsafe. I think if you don't know how to operate the boat, you can do unsafe things with it if you don't understand the basics of boat handling, right? So it's got jet ski steering. You've run a jet ski before. You can turn the wheel that much and it's going to zip around. Well, the switches, when you got weight on it, it's all that weight's on the top and it's going to cause it to flip over. You know, it's not like it's happening every day. It's happened more than it should. But again, I think that's more user error, doing something that boat wasn't designed to do. But there's no, in my mind, unsafe boats that are on the market right now. And so then it just comes down to personal preference. Are you okay with that? Round two of the live will be, yeah. The first hour of the live, Herb, was good. And then there were some crazy bots that got on there and it went haywire. So do you have sub only mode on this time? I don't. I don't know how to do that yet, Bo. So I'll check that out before next week's one. Fair use if it's public video. Eli, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. Here's the question that I asked myself as I was creating it and as I put it out. I thought to myself, how would I feel if somebody took my content and just made commentary on it? It's probably legal. I'm no attorney, but I think you're right from the research I did before I started it. But I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about using it, but I do think there's some value in it. So I need to figure that out. John, welcome. Good to have you. Not a big Facebook user. Yeah, Bo, I think you guys are definitely right. Um, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a good thing. Bo, send me your channel. I don't know that I've been on your channel yet. Um, Max is sold under Hauser Yachts. Ah, okay. That seemed odd to me that that it was coming up and there was only one in the States. Um, Hauser Yachts. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that's interesting. I if they're built out of the Parker facility, I wonder if they're built out of the same exact facility or not. Um, I'm not seeing it listed on here, so I'll dig a little deeper into that C big because I'm interested. I know the dealer in Jacksonville, the Parker dealer in Jacksonville, I know is a great dealer, and I think they've had Parker for a couple of years now. So and they're a premium level dealer. They've got Regulator, they've got Pursuit. They picked up Key West to have a more mid tier because they didn't have anything that was not super high level, and they wanted to service that level of people that would then move up to the more premium lines over time. But they picked up Parker a couple years ago, and I think have been very satisfied with it. Been seeing on some Facebook pages lately that people are commenting COVID boaters are buying more boat than they can handle and are causing costs to go up because they are damaging their boat or other property. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying a lot of stuff about COVID boaters, and here's the thing: the first time boaters was about 25% of the marketplace. It jumped up to a little over 30% during the pandemic, which is not in my mind, that's not causing anything that's noticeable. I can go to a boater that has been boating for 5 years, 7 years. If they've never been trained properly, they're doing all sorts of dumb stuff. Now, they may not be, sitting at the dock with their motor out of the water, running their impeller dry. But they're still long time boaters that have been boating for a number of years that are going through no wake zones, putting out a big wake. There's a number of boaters that have been boating for a number of years that can't put their boat into the slip without using a boat pole or without throwing a rope to somebody and have them pull it in. They don't know how to control their boats. Um, there's there's always been boaters that run too close to the shore. They cut a point and they damage their props. They run into a underwater jetty that they didn't know was there. That's experienced boaters do that all the time too. They're just, I don't think that it's COVID boaters that were doing it. I think these are people that have been boating for a long time, usually older guys that think they know everything about boating. That I guarantee that there's people on this live right now that could teach them something that they weren't aware of, that they were doing, that there's maybe a better way to do it, myself included. There are things, Charlie from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, bought a Yamaha jet boat a couple years ago. He turned me on to the box anchors. I was like, you don't need a box anchor. That just it. I don't. I'm not on board with it. He's like, no, listen, I used it. It worked great. You need to try it out. I now have a box anchor. And a matter of fact, I used it the other day as the secondary anchor. I had the Danforth off the bow, but I dropped the box anchor on the stern because I needed my video to be set in the right background, and I didn't want to be swinging around all the time. So I set that box anchor down with zero scope. I mean, it was almost 1-to-1. I was in 10 feet of water and I dropped probably 11 or 12 feet of line. And it was awesome. I learned that because Danforth, that's what you use. That's the anchor. He's like, he's a new boater, so he's open-minded. He's like, no, I got this because it worked easier. It was better for me. And now I'm like, oh, you're right. There are things that, but there's a certain group of people. A lot of them like to comment to be the smart guy in the Facebook posts or on the YouTube, on my YouTube comments, that they're smarter than everybody else. And it's the same people that were saying the market's going to crash. The market's going to crash when all these COVID boats, give it another 6 months, give it another 8 months. Here we are 3 years after the COVID boom. And a year that and we're seeing boat prices level out. We're seeing some rebates come back into the market, but used boat prices are not dropping. Used boat prices are still staying flat. And I announced it the other day that I am tracking used boat price tracker is what I'm calling it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to Boat Trader, and I'm picking a number of different boats, different price points, different segments, and I'm just tracking their price on Boat Trader, kind of doing a, average, throwing out any that are really high or really low, and tracking the price of boats so we can see where's the market going. And from what I've seen in just the live research that I've done, people talking boats, saying, "Hey, how much is this one worth?" A friend of mine on the live said, "My neighbors are selling their '07 Glastron, their 18-foot Glastron, whatever it was," and those prices, because I've done it enough, are staying flat, are still increasing slightly, and that's in a market that's going down. So that tells me that people are still buying boats at a good enough level that we're not seeing even regular depreciation happen yet on some segments, pontoons, center consoles, and that more the the segments that are more popular, the popular, like center consoles, like Jason was saying on Cumberland. You never saw that before. Well, now you're seeing center consoles on freshwater lakes. That segment is going up, even though the industry is going down. High horsepower pontoon or tritoons, that segment has been going up for 15 years, even though the market now is going down. So that's leaving prices flat. So anyway, I'm tracking it because I want to have actual data, and I want to provide that to you guys. But it'll also allow me to, on these lives, you say, "Hey, I'm looking at this boat. Is this a good price?" Well, depending on the condition, but this is where our prices in that segment are going, and have that information to share. I think it'll be interesting. So, in generally sticks low end boats because they're generally more versatile than high end. My stay liner. Yeah, there's a certain point where on the pre-owned market that the real premium boats, they drop down, especially in the first 5 years, they drop down quicker, because if you're going to spend, 100 grand on a 23-foot boat, well, you're probably not going to spend 80 grand on the used boat just to save that 20,000. But if you're buying a $40,000 used boat and you can save 10 grand to go a couple years used, then you might say, "Oh, that's worth it to me." There's a certain, it's sort of the price and the premium level, the mentality and the economics of it that that impact the pricing there. YouTube defines fair use, the purpose and character of use, including the kind of nonprofit educational. Yeah, so it's definitely not nonprofit use in a commercial nature, or okay, I got you. So I'll brush up on that and put that on my list. Although I've got a list right here. Bo, I still have your rise and fall of the Cuddy Cabin on my list. I just write all of my ideas down here on this big sticky note next to me, so that anytime I'm ready to record some videos, I go to my list and check all that out. So, all right, we are coming up on another half hour here. Oh shit, we're 2 hours in. We're over 2 hours in. My dad's old Cobalt, everything was just fixed in place. Couldn't optimize it for me. Yeah, there's some of that too. Could only do what the boat allowed me to do. Yeah, it's tougher to when things wires are dressed back and really snug down. Helms are completely finished off and there's no extra space for anything. It is tougher to do that. There's some bad engineers like the O3 Evinrude outboard with the first fuel injection, but yeah. And Ken, you're exactly right. There are like my most popular video, um, boats not to buy, the Volvo XDP drive, that composite drive that they came out was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Well, 2 years later, that scrapped, terrible. Yeah, the Ficht, the Evinrude Ficht engines, that segment, they're just problems. I put Force in that category. I put the old Chrysler and the Force engines in that category. Granted, they're 30 plus years old now, but there's people that say you're wrong. That's the best engine I ever had. But it's when you look as a whole, they had more. They had more issues than others. The Yamaha years where they were having issues with the exhaust, a lot of those have been addressed now. But the paint that they were using or the finish that they were using in the interior of the engine was not working, which caused them to have major issues. And yeah, there certainly are. But now in 2022, 2023, there's not an engine that I would say stay away from. There's definitely used ones that I would stay away from. Watch this video, and there's a part two that let's see here. There we go. There's a part two that I did that I added on to it from comments from users and boats I didn't have personal experience with, but I heard over and over and over from people that personally had experience, and technicians is who I really tried to get my information from. So check those out as well. Let's see if you go to Cumberland. Yeah, I will definitely, Jason. I will if I end up in that area, I'll shoot you an email. I've got your email from the pictures and the communications that we've had. So I will definitely check you out. And it's what Cumberland is maybe 7 hours away. I'm just outside of Charlotte. So um yes, you are exactly right. I think that year is um yeah, there are certain things that are my family's second boat was a 1989 Thompson. They're no longer building boats, but that would do the same thing as you would. That's when we were on that Fremont Lake, the really small donut lake, and there's one portion of the lake that had a really sharp turn. It was really tight, and that boat would it would walk right up, scared the hell out of my mom. She did not like that boat at all. Would you consider 80, 100 grand boat expensive for average? Um, I would have 5, 7 years ago. I would have, but now an $80,000 boat. Let's look up what a 3 foot. I'm gonna use Key West center console. Um, and the pricing will be easier to find on a used. So, all right. So a 23-foot center console with probably a 200, 250. Okay. Used, a year used with 100 hours in saltwater is 90 grand, 95 grand. So you can probably buy that boat for 87, let's say. Um, Maybe 85, let's call it 85. Really good negotiate, you get it for 85. Um, you know, 5 years ago, that boat was 55 grand. So and that is a good size. It's not huge, 23 feet, um, 250 horsepower. It probably could go, it would probably be okay with the, maybe not 24 foot. I have to see what the weight is on it. Maybe 250 is about right. But that boat is a good family boat. It's got the hard top, which is a little bit uh adds to the expense of it a little bit. I don't know what electronics are on this boat. Doesn't look like just one screen basically. But that boat 5-7 years ago was 50, 60 grand. Um that level is a middle class family boat, right, at the coast. I wouldn't consider that an expensive boat, but damn, it's a year used is 95. That tells me that brand new, and that looks like without a trailer from the way this boat's not sitting on a trailer. I don't know if it comes with, yeah, this boat's blocked up. So that's another 7-8 grand for a trailer, let's say. So now you're over 100 grand for a used boat with 100 hours on it and what doesn't look like crazy electronics. I, that's expensive to me. 100 grand for a boat is expensive to me. Um, but this is a middle class family boat, right? This isn't the premium level. You go with the Grady, you would go with the Whaler. You could go with, I don't know if Intrepid or Contender make. I don't think they go this small, but a more premium level, a Scout even, which is still in my mind higher mid tier. Um, it's just the prices have gotten way up there. I don't know. I don't know what the fix is, but I consider that an expensive boat now. But it's not a premium. This Key West is by no means a premium boat. A good solid boat, a great first time boat, but not premium. There's other boats that are built much better. So um and it's just the surf boats. Yeah, surf boats have gotten, you can't even get into a heyday. Um You can't even get into a heyday for 100 grand barely. Um, there that is their Bayliner's entry into the surf market, and look at their 20-foot surf. I bet it starts at 85.90, 81.6 to start. Um, and then you add anything on it. Um, Shade for the tower. Do you want a bimini top? Probably. Do you want a canvas cover? Probably. That's an extra 2,500 bucks. Sound system? Maybe. Ski pylon? Well, maybe. So you're up. You're probably adding 3 grand easily to that boat, just with some of the basics. Trailer, painted trailer. That's probably okay for most people in freshwater. If you're in salt, you got to have galvanized. But that boat easily gets up um, to 90, 95,000, and that's the cheapest surf boat you can probably find on the market. So that to me, that's expensive. If you need a 340 Sundancer for a video, let me know. The 99, maybe it's 2000 to 2006, 2007, 2008. I don't know when they changed it, but that 340 Dancer is one of my favorite cruisers. I'm not a huge cruiser guy, but let me know, Sean, where you are. I just did the twin engine version, and I did it on a 35-foot four winds. No, 35-foot four. Yeah, 35-foot four winds. And there's probably some other pieces that I'll do on an outboard because I did it all on a stern drive. And I want to show that the outboard, there's not much change to it. But there are enough center console people that are buying that program that I want to give them a little bit of the being on that boat and show them that the handling is all the same. But I love that boat. It's huge inside. Thank you for that, Sean. Saint, love my Caravel too. Too bad the company isn't around anymore. Yeah, that is when a brand goes out, it can be tough to find some of those specialty components because you can get yeah, it is. I mean, the boat market that if you read the boating industry stuff, I've got my Soundings Trade Only magazine over here, Boating Industry Magazine. I subscribe to some of the international ones as well. They are so focused on, hey, people expect the same level of technology and ease of use in a boat as they do in a car. So they're putting all of this extra stuff on boats. Um, and it's raising the prices up. Yes, cost of labor has gone up. Cost of petroleum has gone up, which is a big factor in fiberglass boats. The technology in the engines has gone up. EPA restrictions has caused the price to go up. But they're also putting a lot of extra stuff in boats that I don't need. I don't know that boats need. You look at a Bayliner or a Tahoe, and they're the ones that are keeping it pretty basic. And they're the ones that have the lower price. But what the manufacturers are finding is that the more profitable segment is the higher end, the more premium buyer that wants all the extras, right? An extra 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand on top of the price is not a big deal to them. But what it's doing is it's it's making it harder for the first time buyer to get started in boating to say, "Oh, I love it." As a younger person, build their financial position, more success, more tenure, their business grows, they get better at sales, they grow their book of business, they grow their skills and their income level, and now they're able to buy their second, their third, their fourth boat, and now they're able to buy the premium bigger boat. They're cutting that group of people out because you've got on the deck boat, you've got Bayliner, Starcraft, and Tahoe. That's really it. On the pontoon side, everybody's adding higher end, higher end, higher end, but that entry level is getting squeezed out. And it's on the center consoles, the same thing. Your twins, trips, quads, quints, all the markets going that direction. I hope it's not. Um, I hope it's not at the expense of the industry in the next 10 years. I think there's going to have to be some changes in some areas. Love my Mercruiser. Yes. Yeah. When you're a freshwater boater, I don't think the stern drive segment's going away either. Although the outboard segment is stealing a lot of market share. I think there's always going to be room for the stern drive. Um, uh, luxury car. Yeah. And automation. The automation of the auto industry. If you go to the smallest auto builder, make the smallest units, and then you go to the largest boat builder, you're going to see a crap load of automation, and you're going to see virtually no automation in this, other than a CNC cutter to cut out the upholstery, cut out the woven roven and the matte material. Maybe you'll find maybe you'll find a robotic welder in a aluminum manufacturing factory or pontoon factory, or aluminum V hull, but the level of automation is night and day. So that allows some of that luxury to be done at a reasonable price and scale. The fit and finish and the luxury at the boat side, I need good experienced craftsmen, craftswomen to do the work, and that gets really, really expensive. And there's not the opportunity for that technology to scale. Um, all right. All right. So we got some other bots that have joined us. I got to get that fixed. I will take a look, and I'm not really sure why. There we go. Get them kicked out. All right, so we've gone for another hour here. We're 2.5 hours in. I'm losing my gumption here. I'm starting to ramble more than usual, and so we'll answer these last couple. Salvage auction boats, Michael. Unless you are a very very skilled technician and you know what you're getting, I would stay away from them. There are just too many. There are too many hidden dangers of buying a boat if you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know how to fix it yourself. that even $5,000 on a boat could be totally wasted. And now you got this boat that is worthless and you got to get rid of it still. So I personally wouldn't, if you are newer to boating, you're not a skilled technician, you're not a knowledgeable boat person, I would stay away from it completely. It is a disaster waiting to happen. And the chances of you getting that diamond in the rough, it could happen. It could happen, but I would I would strongly encourage a new boater not to take that chance. There's too many pitfalls that can catch you. There's too many pitfalls that can catch you buying a new boat, or buying a used boat that you do get a test drive, and you do get a fully inspect, and you do know what the history is. That you really have to know what you're looking for to not get caught. Since I'm in the market again, what's your thoughts on buying a brand that's not building anymore? Um, it's kind of what you said about the specialty thing, the how common they are. So Rinker is going to be much more common than the Rennells. There were more of them built, which means that there's more opportunity if you need parts. And also, how many custom parts did they use versus how many universal parts? So like windshields, did they use a custom windshield or did they use the standard tailor-made three-piece windshield that most manufacturers use? Are there and Bo, you're mechanically inclined enough to look at a boat and say, there's a lot of little pieces on here that are specialty versus, oh, there's not much that could break on here that I can't be fabricated or completed, or it's a pretty standard piece, that. And Rennell, Rinker, I'm trying to think, there's not too much intricacies that you wouldn't be able to figure out. Maybe if it's a cuddy, maybe something on the door, maybe something in the cabin that was really specific to them. But in that case, if you can fabricate it yourself to make it work, then you're okay. But on the resale side, it's going to be harder to resell because that same thought is going through everybody's mind. And it's something that you need to think about. Um, how long is this a boat that you're going to keep for 10 years? Or is this a boat that, hey, you're going to buy it right. You're going to put some of your skill and some of your know-how into to fix it up and try to sell it again in another couple years and make a few bucks. Then I would stick with the more um, well-known established brand that is going to still be on the market new and have a dealer network and people still buying those and know those. Um, and also, I don't know how popular Rinker or Rennell in your area, but in my area, I would be okay buying a Rinker in my area because there was a really really good Rinker dealer and there was enough of them around. But Rennell, there was, as far as I know, not a Rennell dealer in the area for the last number of years that they were in business. So that brand is not well known and would be super hard to sell in my market. In your market, that may play a factor. And if that brand is still well known in your area, then it's not as big a deal. But if it's unknown and they're still not building, then I would stay away from it. So, okay, Norris Lake. So I'm going to be Sean for my oldest daughter's birthday. She wanted to go to my in-laws lake place on Lake Loudon. So we're going to be close to that area. And, hey, I'm wrapping it up. This is the last one. So if I'm up that way, I would love to check out Norris Lake. So, shoot me an email. And, if you don't mind, let's see here. Yeah, it's certainly not. Shoot me an email at that address, captain at Boater Secret Weapon. And if I can skip out and, I may take you up on that. All right. I'll come into your room in just a little bit. Okay. All right. Love you. Show my receding hairline. Thanks. um, Engines are still around. Yeah. That's the other thing. The Mercruiser, the Volvo, whatever they've got are still there. So, okay, with the 8.1s, that's awesome. 8.1 V drive. Do you think that's why used boats are holding up? Because the only way, yes, Matt, I think 100%. That is especially in like my buddy bought at the start of the pandemic. He bought an '07 23-foot Chaparral for like 25,000. And I told him, I'm like, hey, you're paying a little bit more for this boat than you would have 3 years ago. Um, even though it's older, but because of the market. He's like, that's fine. My kids are in college, or they were in high school at the time. We need a boat now. And I looked up his boat, and that's still holding strong because there's no other way to get into boating under 25,000, under 30,000 than getting a boat that it's a '07. What is that? Almost 17 years old. Um, and it's still worth $25,000 without a trailer, because he keeps it at a marina, which is common around our area. So it's at a certain point when that boat gets to be worth 15,000, now not having a trailer is a significant issue because that buyer doesn't want to spend $3,500 a year for a dry storage marina. They certainly don't live on the water. And they probably don't want a $4,000 wet slip that you got to buy a lift for. So that $25,000 boat is hanging tight because those people can't buy a brand new boat. It's not going to happen in their ballpark. Even if you look at a Bayline or a Tahoe, whatever your entry level and the brand that you're at, you just can't find them. And I think that's keeping that market from going down because, hey, those boats are getting fewer and fewer far between. Here's what happened, Matt, is '08 mortgage meltdown. '08, '09, 2010, they didn't build very many boats. So those '06s and '07s, if you keep them in good condition, are going to hold their value real well because the next 4 years, the market was down 30%. And they just weren't building those boats. Well, so that means that they're not going to come on the market. And the new boats have gone way up. So now that buoys the prices of that segment of the used boat market. And again, it's why I'm really interested in doing that, used boat price tracker and just seeing what was reality out there. So Crevel isn't made anymore. Yeah, there's two UFAB. UFAB, yeah, that's for sure. Um, um, let's see here. Caravel. I always get there's a Creval that makes hybrid center consoles and Caravel that makes the bow riders. Creval is still building boats. Caravel is not. I always say those two wrong. Some boats should not be resold. Hard to buy a boat when sellers have no regard. Yes, there is, Michael, you're exactly right. There part of it, there's some people that just don't know that their boat's a piece of crap, and there's some people that do know and don't care, and won't disclose what should be disclosed if you're a reasonable person. That's unfortunate these days. I gave 12,000 for my 99 bow rider used. It's in great shape, well taken care of. So that boat, you're likely going to be in good shape when you go to sell it, especially if you've got a trailer, Ken. Like I said, once you get under a certain level, you got to have a trailer because buying a new trailer is going to be 50% of the cost of the boat on let's say it's a 19-foot Caravel. That's probably going to need, I would put it on a dual axle. The weight probably isn't required, but so that's a $4,000 trailer. The boat's 12 grand. Now you're at 16 grand. And if it had a used trailer, you could sell it for 13. So there's a 30% bump in price just because it didn't have a trailer and you got to find a different one. And it's really hard to find a used trailer. So, all right, guys, I'm spent. I lost my hat to cover my receding hairline. Sean, thank you for that offer on the 340. uh, give me a shout out on email, and I will look for that. And if I can squeeze time in when we're up there in June, that would be awesome. Everybody, thanks for making the switch over to the new live, and we will catch you all next Sunday. And hopefully by that point, I will have figured out the spammer situation, which means Bo, I may reach out to you and get some of your help, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing sometimes. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Have a great one, and we will catch you next week.